Unfinished business.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Tanner.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. President, to Mr. Schilling. Have you any more information, Pete, for us in regards to General Industries? Because I'm tired of knocking on doors. I go around and being asked the same question on everything, you know, and I don't really have all the answers.
Well, today I read a letter from the Ohio EPA to Mr. Pesic and Mr. Vasey, in which they are explaining to them that the attempts that Pesic and Vasey are trying to do are not acceptable because they're trying to short-circuit everything. They still have to deal with the asbestos. They've come up with no plan to deal with the asbestos. And the last I heard also, the US EPA is still trying to assess to determine if they're going to come in and spend the money and clean it up. So it's kind of a stalemate right now. Ohio EPA is continuing to monitor the site. Our building department is monitoring the site to try to make sure no activity is taking place over there.
Well, that's some good news, but my main concern is, as well as yours, I'm sure, and the EPA should be, is because with this damp weather and that's God sent for us, really, to keep the asbestos and that down. But when this hotter summer and that coming, the heat and that, and windy days and that, you hate to have it blowing all over the neighborhood, which, you know, here it's whoever thinks how bad it is. But hopefully they think it's bad enough, the EPA, to come in and take it upon themselves to take care of it and do whatever has to be done to the owner and in the thing for us, get it cleaned up.
Well, Mr. Tanner, it's a very simple way of ending the whole thing. Somebody just comes up with the money, gets rid of the asbestos properly, and proceeds from there.
Right.
Now, if you can come up with a source for the money, then there we go. But as of right now, nobody has done that.
Believe me, if I owned the property, I'd probably have to come up with it. My luck. Well, this guy seems to be getting away with it, you know.
He's getting away with it primarily because he doesn't have the money to do anything, and the plans he keeps trying to come up with are to shortcut so he doesn't have to spend it. What he really wants to do
Just load it up and take it
is
away.
just load up the salvageable material, go in there and wash down into our sewers what he can to clean off the salvage and go and salvage it and walk away.
Exactly.
Now, do you think he should be able to do that?
Absolutely not. That's
Okay,
what I
well,
told him.
Ohio EPA does
Told him
not,
the same.
the city does not, and the US EPA does not, and that's why the situation is where it is right now.
Well, they're doing the right thing, but they ought to get in here and clean it up. We haven't got the money. He hasn't. They have. No doubt
As
about
I
it.
told you, the US EPA is currently evaluating the situation to determine what they're going to do
Right.
as far as cleaning it up. And they're the ones, if anybody has the money at this time.
Thank you. Mayor Grace.
Yeah, Mr. President, on that subject and one other, I've been in regular communication with members of Senator Brown's office and Congresswoman Betty Sutton's office to make their best attempt to keep the U.S. EPA engaged in this investigation and the pressures on Mr. Peshak in cleaning up the property, through Representative Lundy as well, through the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency. So we've been utilizing our legislative representatives to, you know, keep the issue in front of the two environmental protection agencies. The property owners have rights, and there is, you know, agonizingly slow process to give direction and ultimate orders to the property owner to clean up the property, and ultimately to do it the correct way for all parties to recuperate their funds should they ultimately be required, which I believe likely will. They have to demonstrate that they went through a very thorough legal process and giving the owner every opportunity to comply. I believe it's in our interest, short of the lengthy time period, to allow the EPAs, both Ohio and the U.S., to go their course to try to clean up the property. Ultimately, we can perhaps engage, but it would be at our expense, very likely, and I think that's our, last resort. It may come to that, but hopefully not. But it's, the property is monitored on a regular basis. I know last summer, after the event took place and there was concern, as you described, in terms of dry weather and winds, that there was a period of time when we were wetting down the area, so to limit, if not eliminate, that opportunity. Should that present itself again, that may be a course of action, later this year. But Mr. Schilling has been very vigilant at communicating with the parties, and we have as well through our legislative bodies.
No, I certainly believe Mr. Schilling has, and I want to thank you for your efforts, because talking to Matt as well as Betty and different functions I've seen them at, and that they definitely tell me that you've been talking to them, you've been on them too, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure the neighborhood does, that's for sure. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Tanner. Mr.
Yes,
President,
please.
if I may, I would ask to handle it appropriately to reconsider Resolution 2009-9 passed this evening. There was an oversight somehow or another. One of the members of the team, Stephen Cruz, that Mr. Weber listed afterwards. If we can, reconsider and amend that resolution so we can print a new one for the morning to forward to the team. The last name is Stephen, S-T-E-V-E-N, Cruz, C-R-U-Z. If that can be handled, Mr.
Okay,
President.
would Mr. Bullart's move to make that motion, a second from Mrs. Mitchell. Discussion? Question on the motion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Okay, thank you, Mayor Grace and Mr. Bullard, Mr. Mitchell.
Okay.
Mr. Brubaker.
Mr. President, thank you. I want to thank Chief Metters and the Police Department for allowing me the opportunity on April 10th to work the overnight shift. And as it was widely reported in the paper with the raid on the Zulu Club, in the preceding melee, as it was described in the paper, the police officers and the officers that were there for the raid reacted in a very professional manner. They were able to handle the situation. Foxy, the K9 unit, had a lot to do with that as well. It's amazing how a dog comes out of a car and how people tend to disperse when that happens. As well as the sheriff's deputies, K9 unit was there. I was invited to go out. I know Councilman Callahan was there earlier in the evening, and I would certainly encourage any other council members, if they have not had a chance to ride with an officer for any extended period of time, I would encourage you to do that, because I'm not out late at night on a Friday night, and some things that I've seen going on, and I won't mention names, but Zulu's Club is not the only one that we could do some damage with. So thank you, Chief, to you and your officers.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Brubaker. Anybody else have anything? Yes, Mr. Craig.
I have something to add to the referrals. This afternoon, I received from a resident a petition for Washington Avenue to lower the speed limit from Ohio Street to the north end from the current limit of 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. So I'd like to send that to the Utility Safety and Environment Committee, if you will, and perhaps we can discuss it. I see we've also got on the agenda coming up on Wednesday a temporary speed reduction on West River Road from 35 to 25, so maybe we can talk about the requirements and how to do that all at the same meeting.
Well, that goes through the state. Well, I'll refer that to engineering, and then they can bring it to council committee. Anybody else have anything? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Craig. Second by Mr. Kirschner. Discussion? Question on made. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. This council stands adjourned.